Hello and welcome to HealthyHouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. Today's video is sponsored by our Amazon affiliate link, which you'll see in the description below. You'll also see in the description below any links to videos I mention in this video. So today we are stopping back in with Humphrey, the Dieffenbachia, commonly named Dumbcane plant, which Humphrey doesn't really like being called a Dumbcane, so I tend to call him a Dieffenbachia. And we've been working on reviving him for quite some time now. Original revival was actually a year ago when he wasn't doing so great, or almost a year ago, 6/21/19. And he is doing good right now. However, he does need a repotting. He has surpassed the 2/3 plant to 1/3 pot ratio that I talk about, and now he's more like 3/4 plant to 1/4 pot. So he needs a repotting today, which is really nice. He, as you can see, is doing really good. He has, however, lately been drying out very frequently, so that is an indication that a plant needs repotting, and I do cover that in my repotting series that I recently did too, so you can check that out as well. So the time to repot him. So one of the first things I'm going to do, you see he has a little leaf that's done there, so that's fine. If you see a few little leaves that are finishing on a plant, that's fine. That's absolutely normal for plants to let go of old leaves. What you don't want, obviously, to see is a whole bunch. So I just should remove that particular leaf. Now, big question for Humphrey here was about the size of the pot to put him in. So I am waffling between these two pots. To be perfectly honest, Humphrey would love this pot. He loves the look of this pot. Recently took another plant out of this pot and he said he wanted it. So we'll see, however, because I'm going to take him out of his pot right now and see how his roots are doing. A lot of roots. I could go, this one is a pretty good size. I think one thing you can do too is put the plant in the pot, in the bigger pot, and see, and it's pretty close. Teeny tiny bit bigger than I'd like, but it's close. This one is pretty good too, so he may have to go into this one before he can go into this one, but we're going to find out in just a minute. So I am going to get him out of this pot. Now this soil in here is pretty new soil because so it's not, I can probably use, it's not like it has any issues. If you have a soil that has had, you've had root rot, something like that, you definitely want to keep that soil away from your new soil when you're repotting. But since this soil, he's healthy, it's fine. And actually, it doesn't hurt to keep some of the soil on a plant, when on a real healthy plant when you're repotting, because there's a lot of good bacteria in there. And however, you also do want to, as I talk about in my video, my repotting video, make sure that brush your hands a little bit on the roots to break them up a little bit so that they will then develop contact with the new soil. Okay, so I'm seeing that he has roots. He doesn't have a ton of roots. One thing, like I mentioned, I talk about quite frequently, is not planting it up into too big of a pot. So even though he has a really nice upper foliage thing going on here, I don't want to go say, oh, let's put him in a nice big pot like the size of this thing, and then he will grow huge and I won't have to repot him for a long time. Well, that's not a good idea, because he will probably die, because he will get root rot, and he was having problems when we revived him, as you will recall and see in prior videos. So I'm going to check out, I'm going to stick him in this pot and look. Now, you want, when you put the plant in the new pot, you want to see about an inch, no more than 2 inch around the outer part of the root ball. This is called the root ball, around the outer part of the root ball and underneath the root ball. So I am seeing a nice inch in that. Now I'm going to try this, because he's dead set on this plant, this pot, and there's just a little bit too much space in this pot around his root ball. If he was very tightly wound with tons and tons of roots and what's called root bound, I might go to this bigger pot, but since he has, as you can see, he has roots, but we're not talking about a lot of really root bound, I think this next size up is going to be perfect for him. So he will have to wait. His reward for growing nice and big will be to get into this pot, and if he grows it and is not able to go to this one, I'll have to look for one similar. Okay, so I'm going to, as always, put some sort of a screen at the bottom of the pot so that the soil stays in rather than going out. I'm going to put, now, you always want to, and first of all, add some, so this is a Pro Mix potting soil. I talk about that in one of the video on choosing soils. I am going to add some of my green gourmet houseplant food to this Pro Mix as well for a little extra, and I have already added pumice to this, actually in a prior video about adding pumice, so it's a perfect consistency of having a really good drainage with the pumice. You always want to moisten potting soil before you repot, and this is a lukewarm to tepid water as well. So I'm going to do that. I don't necessarily going to do all of this soil because there's quite a bit. I'm going to do the top part that I need, but what you want to do is you don't want it to be soppy, you want it to be moistened, but not soppy. So if you were to squeeze it, you don't want water to come out. You want it to form a ball in your hand that could easily be crumbled. But you want it to be you want some moisture in it. The reason you do is when you repot, what will happen if you do with dry soil is once you water, the soil will sink, and then you're not going to have enough soil in the pot for the plant. And you have to go back and repot. So rather than doing that, just do this instead. I am also going to add, as I mentioned, some of my green gourmet in here. Don't need a lot. And I've already added the pumice as mentioned. Another great thing I love to add extra of, and it's hard to overdo this, is worm castings. I have a video on how great they are too, as well as how to make tea with them. So I added some of that. So Humphrey's going to be nice and have a really nice and healthy soil to go into. I put the link of the soil here at the bottom of the video as well. Okay, so got it mixed up in good. I'm going to put some. So when you're repotting, you should be able to put some. You want, obviously, the bottom of the plant to be hitting some soil. What you don't want is a whole bunch of soil at the bottom of the plant, because you want it to not remain too moist, because when that happens, you're going to end up with root rot. So I put that in there. And if you see too, this is another cool thing to do, is a very useful thing to do, is put the root ball up against the pot. You can see this root ball is substantially smaller than this pot. It's not too much smaller, but it gives you an idea. Okay, so now I put that in there, and it's a little low. You want to have about 1/4 of an inch around the top of the rim once you've planted and you've patted down the soil, so that when you water the water doesn't roll over, but you don't want it too low because there are problems with planting too low. I have a video on that as well. Okay, so here we've got it pretty good. You can eyeball it, put it up and take a look and see if you think when you're done it's going to be 1/4 of an inch around, and it looks like it will be. Now I am going to go ahead and add soil to around the edges, and you want to work your way around as you do it. So if you can see that, and push it down. So you want to gently push down. You don't want to go crazy, but you do want to push down because you don't want air pockets in there. You want some air to the roots, which is why you have draining agents like the pumice in there, but you don't want too much air because then the roots will dry out. However, the roots do need to breathe some as well. That's why when you have things in very heavy soil without any drainage agents, you will tend to get root rot because the roots will basically become suffocated, and then they shut down, and then the plant has root rot. Okay, so I'm pushing down all the way around, If you do plant, you find it's too low, you find it's crooked in the pot, it's okay to take it back out, gently take it back out and start again. The plant will be fine. Now's the time to do that rather than waiting a month and saying, you know, I want to repot that because I don't like how it's on the side of the pot and that's always bugged me, so do it now rather than later. Okay, so got that, making sure that it's in at a good space, good there. And now he's got some room for, I'm going to go ahead and water him. You want to water with warm to tepid water. This water got warm before I started here. You want to water well once you've watered the plant. Now if you may find in some places it's a little high, you can take a little soil out if necessary, if it's running over the edge too much, because you do want the water to stay in there. Or just press it down where. So you want to water well, and then you won't water again until the plant needs water again, until the plant is approaching dryness. Usually in the just before, if you were using a moisture meter, just before the red zone. And you want to water until you see water coming out of the drainage hole, that now is occurring. So that tells me I got the soil nice and moistened. Another thing that's really good to do is to note on your plant tag, and I like to do that, and I actually made another plant tag too, so you can have two. So I put the repotting date 5/20/9/20, and I also put in what I planted him in. So say he does really good and I think, wow, I want to do that again. So I put that it was the ProMix potting soil, worm castings were added, and also the Green Gourmet was added. So add that in, and then I'll add this other one to show when he was originally revived, his revival stake. And he will be cleaned off a little bit because he's a little messy. But other than that, he's looking good, and he's ready to keep growing and get even healthier, and he won't be drying out as much on me, but he is in the right size pot. So thank you for stopping by today and checking in on Humphrey with me, getting him repotted. Thank you for stopping by today. Please remember to leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. And remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video.